Welcome back. All right, so I got curious this morning. I've had people asking me, "Hey, who's the best goal scorer that you've seen?" And I give the answer usually, and I'm not going to give it here because why ruin the ending of the video? But I do have an answer for that, and I thought, well, I did the video back in the day, so I can go look at that video, and I decided I needed to update this because it was 7 years ago I made that video, so things have changed a bit. My opinion on things have changed a bit, and I disagreed with my rankings. So there's that too. And so, yeah, here we are. I think this is one of the most subjective things you can do a video on. This is a list that I'm going to have some fun with. There's no reason to get angry and do a bunch of hating, but I'm sure there will be that as well. Honorable mention to Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon ends up not being in the top 20, but honorable mention to him. And honestly, we're looking at over 40 years of hockey. There have been a lot of really good goal scorers that are not going to be on this list because I had to come up with 20. And after going through all the lists and everything, I'm like, that's as close as I'm going to get. I'm sure I could go through and I could tear the list apart and start all over again, but at some point in time, I need to do other stuff today. So, that being said, number 20 on my list, and for consistency, just the consistency, and every year Dave Andreychuk could be counted on to score goals. And that was Andreychuk's role, goal scorer. Right into the twilight years of his career, he was an excellent goal scorer. Andreychuk to me had to be on the list. Had a lot of goals in his career. I don't put him higher because I think the players that are higher on the list were just better pure goals. And this is where it gets tricky, right? Because again, the last time I did this video, I remember there was a lot of you can't make that determination. This guy should be number one. This guy should be number three. Yada yada yada. Number 19. So another former Sabre, Pat LaFontaine, better known as during his time with the Islanders, at least to me. But yeah, LaFontaine and Andreychuk, both players who played on more than one team and scored on more than one team. LaFontaine had some very, very strong seasons. If not for injury, his career would have gone on longer. There's also other players on this list that their career would have gone longer if not for injury. But yeah, LaFontaine, for number 19 on my list, again, putting him ahead of Andreychuk in terms of the overall goal numbers, it would favor Andreychuk a lot, and I'm sure that's where some people will see it. Well, this guy got more goals, so he's a better goal. Anyway, number 18. All right, number 18. Jerome Iginla. Jerome Iginla was one of the best power forwards ever to play the game. Oh, honorable mention to Cam Neely as well. I don't have Cam Neely on the chart. There are a lot of honorable mentions I could throw in this video. But yeah, Jerome Iginla, number 18, of course, primarily during his career at Calgary Flame. But towards the end of his career, he played for a couple different teams as well, and he was always a very good player. Towards the end, I watched a game live of him playing for the Kings. I thought he still looked pretty good. So Iginla, I think, retired before he necessarily had to, which is something that I do appreciate when a player decides to hang him up before the teams tell him it's time to hang him up. But yeah, Iginla to me at 18, he was an excellent goal scorer, power forward. I don't really have anything else to add to that. Number 17, and now we get a current player, meaning he has the chance to move up. Steven Stamkos. Stamkos, of course, did reach 60 goals in a season. Iginla topped out at 50, I think, but that's dead puck era. I know LaFontaine had a 60-goal season. I think Andreychuk did as well. But Stamkos, during an era where there wasn't much goal scoring, very, very solid goal numbers from him. He gets hampered by injuries, but he's come out of that and he's become a good goal scorer again. We'll see how it translates in Nashville if he can still score at a 30 to 40 goal rate. But yeah, he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer and a mega excellent goal scorer during his time. Number 16 on the list, and he's going to move up. Conor McDavid, at this point, I would put 16th on the list, meaning if he didn't play again tomorrow, yeah, that's where I'd have him. And again, Conor McDavid, is a player that had all of the assists this year, but it feels like another former Oiler that he could probably score at will. But he starts passing it. He's a pass first guy. He wants to help his teammates. Leon Draisaitl's not on this list. I'm sure we'll throw him in as an honorable mention too. Again, I could have gone to 60 or 70 or 80 on this list. But Conor McDavid, for me, has already shown just how talented he is, how supremely excellent he can be at almost any part of the game. I know defensively people aren't all that enamored with him. And, THG's always sucking up to McDavid. McDavid's going to hit 1,000 points already this upcoming season. Early this upcoming season. He could hit 2,000 points in his career. I understand there's people who don't necessarily like his game, but he is unquestionably, I think, the most talented overall player in the National Hockey League right now. Number 15 on the goal-scoring list. Current general manager in the National Hockey League, Steve Eiserman. Eiserman as well was a player who seemed to get better as he got older, and when he got older, he wasn't necessarily primarily the goal scorer. He was trying to distribute the puck more. It was more about his leadership and just more about the effort that was there come playoff time especially. But Eiserman could light it up. He absolutely could. He had, I think, 155 points is the highest he got. I think he had a 60-goal season that year. But yeah, Eiserman, underrated goal scorer because we remember his leadership. We remember the Stanley Cups. But as a goal scorer, he was right up there. And number 14, another general manager in the National Hockey League, going with Joe Sakic. The last time out that I did this, I did a top 10. And I was going to just do a top 10. And then I was, going through this list and look at these players that would have been left out of a top 10. And I thought, I would much rather have this a top 20. And maybe people are upset with where somebody is on the list. Like maybe some will think Sakic should be top 10 or Eiserman should be top 10. Rather than not having them on the list at all. So Joe Sakic, excellent goal scorer, game breaker. It started in Quebec. And you could see when he was playing without line mates that he was going to be a really, really dangerous player when he was playing in Quebec with basically nobody at stages. But once they reached Denver and were the Avalanche, Sakic was no longer questioned. And there were questions about, really after all the losing in Quebec, isn't it going to be difficult for him to get... No, nothing ends up being difficult for Sakic, including the goal scoring. And there he is on 14th. 13th. And this is the first entrant from last time I did this video. The last time I did this video, Mike Gartner was 10th. I have Mike Gartner at 13th. Gartner was remarkably consistent. You could pencil him in for 30 goals every single year. And the consistency is why you see Gartner and Andreychuk on this board. They just found ways to get goals. Gartner was overshadowed during the era that he played in. But by the time he was towards the end of that 30-goal plus run, people were starting to realize just how gifted he was. And he could skate like the wind. Honestly, Gartner, one of the more underrated players that I've watched. And I could do a video on that too. Like top 10 players I think are underrated from the era where I've watched hockey. And then people will get mad if Barkov's not number one. So I guess I could do that video as well. But don't be surprised if Mike Gartner's on that list. Number 12. I went back and forth on this one too. Teemu Selanne, very talented goal scorer. The last time I did this video, I didn't have him in the top 10 either. And I wanted him to be in the top 10 this time, kind of, sort of. But I just couldn't argue myself ahead of 12th. So apologies to Ducks fans, former Jets fans, people who just really like Selanne. But he is 12th on the list. He had, of course, that amazing 76-goal season in Winnipeg, not long after he found himself on the move to Anaheim, which worked out pretty well for him. He went to Anaheim, then San Jose, and then back to Anaheim. Selanne, absolutely one of the best goal scorers, again, over a 40-plus year period, and I got him in 12th. So who's in 11th? Who are people going to get mad at? So the first one that Selanne fans are going to get mad at is another Finnish player. Yari Curry. Yari Curry, and this is where last time out, Yari Curry, I had 7th. And this time out, he's 11th because just looking back and just with all the videos I've done over the last forever, remember the last time I did this, 2017, I would have probably been working not full time, but at least part time. And I don't know what maybe I just didn't think the list through as much as I do now. But Yari Curry, there's two things with him. Yes, he played on a line with Wayne Gretzky. That definitely helped. But he was still a very good goal scorer. The one thing that bumped him down for me is when he wasn't with Gretzky and he moved on, the goal scoring wasn't. And I'm not saying that he was a bad goal scorer, but you could see just how much Gretzky had helped with that. So Curry has a lot of goals in his career. Very, very good goal scorer, but he ends up finishing outside the top 10. Whereas last time, I had him 7th on the list. So if you're a Yari Curry fan, apologies. And yeah, so now we move into the top 10. Number 10 on the list, and not rated last time I did this list, Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby has shown how excellent a goal scorer he can be. And you know what? I'm going to come back to Conor McDavid. I'm going to come back to Steve Eiserman. The greats in the game, the way they think the game, the way that they basically decide, okay, my next move is, very often they're not thinking about themselves that much. And when they decide to, as it feels like sometimes Crosby is done, he'll have a season where he'll have 50 goals. And it feels like he's just approaching the game differently. And he's out there and he's doing what he can do. Crosby can score at will. At least he was like that as a youngster. I don't think he can score at will now like he could, say, 15 years ago. But still, he ends up in the top 10. Again, I did not have him in the top 10 last time. But he scored a lot of goals since the last time I did this video. And so he ends up in the top 10. Number 9. And the last time I did this video, he was not in the top 10. I seem to remember people being upset Jaromir Jagr wasn't in the top 10 last time. Jagr, the player who just is still playing. He absolutely is still playing. He's the only person, I think, older than me that's still playing pro hockey anywhere in the world. Like, I'm old, and Jagr's still doing his thing. So, Jagr, absolutely, during his time in Pittsburgh, became a megastar, played really, really well with the Rangers, too. Had some issues playing in Washington, sure. But overall, to me, it levels him up to 9. We'll put him at 9th. Again, he wasn't in the top 10 the last time I did this, but I do feel like he belongs there. The longevity, his goal scoring, the fact that he was the best player in the National Hockey League for a while. One player who's not in the top 22 that I want to mention is Lindros, because, Lindros' career wasn't that long, but he had a lot of goal scoring ability. So did Forsberg, and Peter Forsberg's not on the list. They were traded for each other, of course, and so, yeah, now I'm getting mad at my own list. Like, where's Forsberg? Where's Lindros? Stupid hockey guy. Again, these are just kind of fun. To me, anyways. Number 8. So, longevity. Mark Messier, when he decided to retire, and last time I did this list, he was number 6, now he's number 8. When he decided to retire, he phoned Gordie Howe and told him the game's record was safe. So, before Patrick Marleau passed it, Messier decided he didn't want to. Mark Messier was a fantastic goal scorer in his career as well. And he was a power forward in the 80s. He could be a pain in the, to play against. And, yeah, his goal scoring was fantastic. He had some very famous goals for the New York Rangers, of course, after he went there. And so, yeah, Messier overall, to me, belongs in the top 10. He does drop a little bit, though. Number 7 on the list. And this is the one where I had to think this one through. So, Austin Matthews belongs on the list. There are a lot of people who don't like Austin Matthews. I refer back to Conor McDavid. But Austin Matthews, if you look at his goals pace, you look at how many goals he's scoring per game, he's actually on a better pace than Ovechkin. Yes, I do expect his goal scoring pace to drop off at some point in his career, but at this point in time, Matthews is he's guaranteed to score goals. This video is on goal scorers. It is not on Stanley Cups. It is not on best players overall or, the guy who can drag their team to the conference final, the final, and beyond. This is about goal scoring. Matthews does that very, very well. I think Matthews is underrated in some areas, especially defensively, but the goal scoring, Matthews is the guy. And if I do this video again, say in 7 years, Don't be surprised if Matthews is in the top 3 because his goal scoring has just been absolutely remarkable. And sure, we can find flaws in the rest of his game. Absolutely. I'm not going to argue with that. But I cannot have Matthews outside the top 10. I just can't. Number 6. So there you go. Was asked in the live stream yesterday, why don't you talk about Pavel Bure? 2 videos on Bure. The last time I did this video, Pavel Bure was number 9. I've revised it, obviously, moved him up to 6. If not for injuries, Pavel Bure might very well have been number 1 on this list. Just his knees gave out on him, and if you can't skate, you're not going to score very many goals. But 60 goals, he made it look easy. And I remember him having a very strong goal-scoring season in Vancouver, and Canuck fans complaining. They didn't feel like he was doing enough outside of scoring goals, and that the effort wasn't necessarily there. And, he didn't come back at all. But he'd still score 60 goals. So, Bure, in terms of pure goal scorer and the speed that he executed with those goals, just fantastic. Just one of a kind. And so, he moves up to number 6. Number 5, this is where we start getting into very similar numbers as last time. Because Brett Hull, last time I did this, was number 5. He's number 5 this time as well. And again, Brett Hull had the 70-goal season. He had an 86-goal season. And he was a very good goal scorer outside that. Again, as he got older and the goal scoring dropped off a bit, his team play got better. And all of a sudden, he's winning Stanley Cups. So when he's getting all these goals as a youngster in St. Louis, well, they're not getting anywhere in the playoffs. So the criticism was, you can't win a cup with Brett Hull. Then he goes to Dallas, follows that up by going to Detroit, wins cups both places, and then it was, hey, this Brett Hull's pretty good in the playoffs. Just amazing how change of scenery changed things for Brett Hull. Almost as if St. Louis didn't have a good enough team to win a Stanley Cup, and it wasn't necessarily on Brett Hull or Adam Oates as to why they weren't able to get over the hump come playoff time. But Brett Hull for me, number 5. Number 4, I went back and forth on this one. And last time out, he was number 3. So Wayne Gretzky is the all-time leading goal scorer in the National Hockey League. And tremendously talented as a goal scorer, yes. Also a player who scored less goals as he got older because he wanted to distribute the puck to his teammates, yes. He wanted wins in the playoffs, absolutely. So part of that is to be a little less selfish and a little more about the teammates. And Gretzky was an excellent teammate who ends up owning the record books in so many ways. He is the number 1 goal scorer of all time in the record books. For me, as a pure goal scorer, I would have him 4th. And so, and again, part of this is because over the last 7 years, I've done so many videos on so many players and so many things, and it gets stuck in my brain that I have adjusted Gretzky down because I have adjusted a couple of players up. Number 3, actually, I've adjusted one player up. Because number 3 was number 2 last time. There's a couple of generations now that won't remember Mike Bossy as a great goal scorer. And it's too bad. Because Mike Bossy, if not for his back giving out on him, he very likely would have recorded 900 plus goals in the NHL. I think he would have. Yes, I do. And so if people want to disagree, they can. Absolutely. Nope, you're fine with disagreeing with me. But to me, Mike Bossy, what he did with the Islanders, he was remarkable. And I think he would have scored 50 goals every year for a while after, if not for his back giving out. And he just could not play anymore. But Mike Bossy is number 3. Number 2, and the last time I did this, he was actually number 4. But over the years, as I've said, opinions change. Mario Lemieux switches up from 4 to 2 and bumps down Bossy and Gretzky. And I think it is because, again, as I've been doing this channel for the last 7 years beyond that last video, just all the stories that I've consumed and I've told all you fine people on the internet about Lemieux and his fighting through back problems, retirement, coming back from retirement, and the fact that he still, with all his injury concerns and being older and being a little slower, he was still putting the puck in the net. He was still generating a ton of points. So, to me, Mario Lemieux belongs at number 2 on the list. You can make the argument for number 1 for Mario Lemieux, But to me, anyways, it kind of has to be Alex Ovechkin. Kind of has to be. Alex Ovechkin's goal totals during a low-scoring era, remarkable. And he has been so remarkably consistent and so abundantly dangerous with the puck at all times, to the point where he has his spot, we know where that spot is, and he still scores from it at will. Tells you how good he is. That in a league where all the teams know this is where Ovi's going to shoot from, keep an eye on Ovi, and he still gets those goals. Tells you how devastating his shot is. And so, to me, Ovechkin ends up number one on the list. I will be doing other list videos. I'm considering revisiting the video I did on, like, the best defensemen of the year I've watched hockey, best goaltenders, best forwards, and I'm ready to dive in again. When I do list videos like this, I know people are going to get mad at the end result, and they're going to disagree, and they're going to get upset, which is fine. But again, it's a completely subjective list. You guys can let me know your thoughts. Honorable mention to Luke Robitaille, who's not on the list. Anybody else that I had on the paper that doesn't end up? Alex McGillney, honorable mention to him as well. And again, I mentioned Draisaitl, and I mentioned McKinnon. There are a lot of others. This is a league that's been no shortage of gifted goal scorers. And one guy who may very well end up on this list the next time I do it, Kirill Kaprizov. Kirill's absolutely that talented, and I could see him ending up bumping Andreychuk out of 20th, although I really would rather Andreychuk didn't drop out of 20th, but that's me. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always, and I'm sure people will. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support, as always. I will talk to you again soon.